And right now I want to welcome in studio our friend Colion Noir, the host of Noir. How are you, man?
Doing pretty good. How are you, Cam?
I'm good. I appreciate you joining us today. I got to tell you, man, this is my first time in Dallas.
My neck of the woods now, right?
Holy cow, this city has just exploded.
Yeah, I've been here about 3-4 years now. I kind of came at a point where things had already pretty much reached, I won't say tipping point, but it started really escalating. People were telling me all the time, like, it didn't used to look like this 5-7 years ago. Yeah, like it's apparently just exploded in Dallas.
I'm just glad to see construction cranes and buildings going up in a city that's not Washington, D.C. Because I tell you, every time I go back to D.C. in the suburbs, like, it just drives me crazy that, you know, there's all this growth going on there because it seems like that's our tax dollars at work. So I'm glad to see that it's not sucking all of the employment out of the country.
Which is interesting about DC because all the buildings look like they were built in the 19th century or something. So it's odd that they're continuously having construction and seemingly putting up new buildings when they all tend to look a bit antiquated, at least to my eyes.
And I gotta say, like in Dallas, man, you guys have some really cool buildings here.
I don't know who the architecture is for a lot of these buildings, but I'll tell you what, they should be paid handsomely because they do a really good job.
They were. So let's talk a little bit about what's coming up on season 5 of Noir. As a matter of fact, we've got a promo that I want to share with folks, and then we'll talk about what's coming up. Let's take a look at a sneak peek at season 5 of Noir.
You want to know what being a gun owner is all about? It's about power, pure unadulterated power, and the million-pound lead weight of responsibility that comes with it. It's about adrenaline. I mean, the most heart-stopping, vision-melting, brain-freezing adrenaline. And the serious hard work it takes to deliver that next thrill. It's about motivation, real honest-to-God motivation. To get every ounce, every breath, every second out of this life you possibly can. It's about achieving everything in this world you're willing to fight for. Truth is, being a gun owner isn't about being a gun owner at all. But I guess only we know that.
So there you go, a sneak peek at season 5 of Noir. And we're talking again with the Colion Noir here at the NRA TV studios. So a line in that promo, being a gun owner isn't about being a gun owner at all. No. It's about what comes with being a gun owner.
Absolutely. I think people tend to really put gun owners in a box. Or the idea and the concept of what a gun owner is, right? Like above and beyond that, there are no other interests that you may have, no other lifestyle choices that you make as a result of it. Everything runs through the vein of the gun. I mean, for some people that is the case. But what I wanted to do with this season of the show is really show the lifestyle component of what firearm ownership really looks like, right? So whether that be somebody who is involved in gymnastics or somebody who's a BMX biker, you know, there are tons of different types of things that you could be into and it still be vehemently pro-gun, you know? And so I just wanted to kind of take that box and just destroy it, essentially, and then show the world, like, no, this is the multitude and this idea of all gun owners look like this, all gunners do this, and only this. I just wanted to destroy it.
You know, we were talking with Carly Twisselman a couple minutes ago about that, you know, how there is no stereotypical gun owner anymore. The media still thinks that there is, right? And the media says, well, there's a smaller and smaller group of Americans buying more and more guns. Yeah. And then you go out and you talk to gun store owners, you talk to firearms instructors, who's showing up at your classes. And they'll tell you, it's everybody. Yeah. It's 18 to 80, it's men, it's women. You've got folks from all different kinds of backgrounds. You've got people who've never ever owned a gun before and now they're 50 years old and they're trying for the first time. You got people you got moms and daughters who are going and taking courses together. You look around the mall, look around, an average city street, and that's what the American gun owner looks like today.
I think there's a strategic element to minimizing gun ownership or denying gun ownership the diversity that really exists in the gun community. Mm-hmm. Because by doing that, you can kind of push it off to the side and just consider it a fringe group. when you open it up and you broaden the perspective of gun ownership in this country, that allows for a more cultural hold of the idea behind the Second Amendment. And I always tell people all the time, there are two battles being fought. There's the political and then there's the cultural, right? And I think the cultural is just as important as the political.
Well, I think absolutely. You know, Andrew Breitbart used to say politics is downstream from culture. So politics reflects the larger cultural battles that are taking place.
Absolutely.
And I think it was this weekend actually. The LA Times, I think LA Times, Philadelphia Inquirer both had stories on the Pink Pistols this weekend. Now the Pink Pistols have been around for over a decade now.
Yeah.
But the media has all of a sudden, since the attack of the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, all of a sudden now the media's like, wait, there are gay people who own guns?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And isn't this strange? And isn't this unusual? And why are there more, gay gun owners? And why are people wanting to exercise this right? They are so bewildered by what they see, and they don't, it seems like there are a lot of members of the media who really have a hard time with the idea that self-defense is a human right. And it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter the population density, it doesn't matter the average income in your neighborhood. Self-defense is a human right.
Yeah, I can't see how anyone can't see that. But ironically, I think a lot of people who are anti-gun, so to speak, who they tend to project their own prejudice onto other sects of people who they claim to defend. When you do talk about the gay community, for instance, the idea and the concept of there's a pro-gun gay group, it blows their mind because they're so narrow-minded in their belief of what gays are supposed to do.
Right.
They can't fathom the thought of, wait a minute, you mean to tell me you can be gay and then be an alpha, I guess, so to speak? To me, those are the kind of undertone dog whistles that I get from just the kind of shock that comes from knowing that there's a pro-gun gay group. Even me sometimes, I had a friend from law school who called me not too long ago, and he's gay. And he was like, man, I think it's about that time I started looking for a gun. And there was no particular catalyst. It wasn't like, oh, the Orlando nightclub shooting. He was just kind of like, yeah, I think it's time. I think it's about that time for me to start looking for a gun. And he just starts rattling off different names. He's done his research. He just kind of wanted to get some of it confirmed. And I think that, and I wish I could kind of record that conversation and put it out there.
Right.
Just so, because I think a lot of people like that. They don't necessarily have the boldness to kind of step forward and say, no, I kind of buck the stereotypical idea of what you think I am, And I think the more we get that out there, the better we are.
Well, you got to be bold, though. That's the thing, because if you don't fit in that stereotype of what a gun owner looks like, then all of a sudden you're going to get grief for this.
Absolutely.
Right?
From your own people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you've gotten this. Yeah. You've gotten grief. Why are you out there talking about the Second Amendment, Colion? Why can't you, be talking about promoting common sense gun control? Why do you have to do this?
Yeah. Look at you in your communities. Look at what's happening over there because of guns and stuff like that. I was like, that has nothing to do with guns. I'm telling you that right now. And if you think it has something to do with guns, you purely missed the point. But yes, I do get that, And I think there's a positive and a negative. I get a lot of that because I don't fit a stereotypical ideal, right? But I think we are kind of moving towards, there's a trend going forward where people don't like to be really typecasted. Yeah. And we're not going to accept it anymore. We like the idea and concept of independent thought, being able to think for myself, being able to take my perception of a particular group of people based on the individuals that I meet, not necessarily what somebody has colored in my mind as a whole, and use a very, very broad brush to do it. So I think that's kind of, ironically enough, I think what we're doing here with NRA News, NRA TV, I think for the most part, we're kind of leading that charge, not getting much of the credit for it, but I do think we are leading it. And inevitably, I think there'll be a time where people will realize that in the end. Because right now, it's easy to demonize because it hasn't taken a kind of, there hasn't been a universal acceptance of the idea that, everyone isn't the same in your particular groups.
Yeah. You're right, and and it's interesting too because even let's say the folks who do fit that stereotype of okay, well they're a white guy in their 40s and they wear a baseball cap, maybe they got a beard. Even those folks don't fit the stereotype of what the anti-gun media wants them to be. So, for instance, in Harris County, Texas, Shiloh shooting range, we talked with Jeff Sanford. Who's, white dude who owns guns. And one of the guys who shoots there at the range after the Pulse nightclub shooting he's gay, and he went to Jeff and he said, hey, if I got a couple of my friends together, could we put on a concealed carry course here for the LGBT community?
Yeah.
And Jeff said, yeah, sure, okay. Yeah. And they ended up doing 13 concealed carry courses for free for the LGBT community. They had over 400 people go through this course. And a lot of it for them, for the people who attended, it was, so it's okay for me to go to a range? Like, I'm not going to get made fun of? You guys aren't going to rip on me for being a gay guy, for being a lesbian? And Jeff's, his attitude is, hell no, we're not going to do that. We, again, it goes back to the idea of this is a human right. Chris Cheng has talked about he got more grief coming out as a gun owner in the tech world, in the tech world of Silicon Valley, than he got grief for being a gay man.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because when we talk about these stereotypes, we really have to talk about, well, who has these stereotypes and who's perpetuating these stereotypes? Who benefits from perpetuating these stereotypes rather than, again, dealing with people as individuals?
Yep. And I was actually a victim of that coming up in the gun world. When I decided I wanted to do IDPA, I had this apprehension about it because I'm like, I'm going out here in the middle of nowhere. My idea and concept of gun owners was they're all kind of backwoods, racist hillbillies who are pretty much going to hang me on site, right? However, I still had this kind of mindless fearlessness where I was like, I didn't care. I wanted to learn shoot IDPA. Right. I'm going to go and do it anyway. I go there and they're the nicest group of people I've ever met. They accepted me wholeheartedly. Yeah, sure, we went back and forth about our differences, but that was the fun part. It was like, I grew up like this, you grew up like this, these are differences, but we have this one commonality between us, this passion we have for firearms, and the idea of it, that's what brings us together. That's the unifying factor. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I got treated no differently than everyone else out there, except for the fact I suck. So therefore, everybody, they kind of rallied around me and tried to help me improve my shooting.
Right.
But it was amazing, absolutely amazing, and it actually kind of confused me a little bit because before that, this is not supposed to happen. This is the way it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying everyone is like that. Of course, you have your extreme crazies on every side of everything. But for the vast majority of my experiences, they've been good.
I agree. And I think that, I always called it a brotherhood, but I don't want to be sexist because there are a lot of women who are getting into but it's a family. Yeah. And that's the thing, and you look at how the media, not just the news media, but how Hollywood treats gun owners. When you find another gun owner, you're excited. You're like, hey, cool, right? Yep. And so, it doesn't really matter the differences in background, the differences in upbringing, the differences in why you're a gun owner. It's not that they don't matter, but they complement rather than take away from the interactions that we have with one another.
Absolutely. Every time I go out, and it still happens to me to this day, considering. I've gone out to places out here in Dallas that are exceptionally liberal. And I remember being at this counter and just kind of talking with one of my friends, and one of the guys at the counter, he is the stereotypical prototype of an anti-gunner for all intents and purposes, just on outward appearance. He kind of overheard what we were talking about. We were talking about guns, and he kind of stepped in. He was like, he dominated the conversation. And I was like, holy crap. Like, even I still kind of engage in this kind of the stereotyping, right? And we ended up exchanging numbers. He was like, let's go and shoot sometime. I was like, yeah. I was like, holy crap. I was blown away in the most beautiful way possible, but nonetheless. So I think it's an active thing too, because a lot of the things that we do that tend to limit people's identities have been kind of things we've picked up from birth, essentially.
Right.
We may not even been aware of them. But I think the more we actively try to take ourselves out of that mindset, I think it puts not only us as individuals, but this country as a whole in a much better position. And then that allows us to open up dialogue between all of us and move this country above and beyond where we are now, where we've been before, which have been great places, to even higher places.
Yeah, because now you're not shunning people you disagree with. You're not calling them deplorables and trying to shove them in a basket somewhere. Right now, you're actually able to engage and say, okay, so let's talk about why you don't like guns, why you don't think I should be able to own one, why you don't think Colion should be able to own one, and let's actually talk about this, right? And I'm not sure we're quite there yet, but we're making inroads. That's the thing.
Absolutely. I came into this from the very beginning. Like, I've always had this innate ability, this kind of, I call it tactical double consciousness, where I know what it feels like to be anti-gun because I was essentially that before I got into guns. So I understand some of it, but it was more so from an internal fear standpoint, not so much an agenda-driven standpoint. And I always make this point, and I say, look, I want to be able to talk to both sides, right? I'm rabidly pro-gun. You're never going to hear me say anything less than that. But then I understand where a lot of people who are anti-gun come from. So I have to speak their language and really take them out of that mindset and really talk to them. The problem is, it's incredibly boring to watch. And it's the most effective conversations to really get people and pull them over. Right. Are not entertaining to watch because it's two people respectfully engaging in dialogue.
Which is not typical, exactly. Right, that's not what you see on TV where it's, why are you wearing a flat-brimmed hat, Colion? You gotta wear, come on, man.
We spend 30 minutes on ad hominems, and then we actually have like 2 seconds worth of content.
Exactly, but that's where, see, that's the difference between entertainment and being productive.
Yeah.
Right? And the talking head screaming matches on TV, it's not about moving the ball forward. It's not about, nobody solves any of those problems. Yeah. There's never been a scream fest on a cable television show that has ever solved a problem, that has ever even led to a worthwhile conversation where it's over with and you're like, wow, holy crap, I learned something there, right? No, it's all just brain candy.
Yep, absolutely. But the beautiful thing about it is, though, at the end of the day, we can still have those conversations in our personal lives. And what I seek to do, and when I'm talking to the people who are behind me, who do support me, is put it out there and say, look, engage in these conversations this way with people, because this is the place that they're coming from. And when you can get them to drop their guard, their defensive guard, and actually listen, it makes perfect sense. I see it all the time. It makes perfect sense to them. It's just that they have a preconceived notion about it. And people hate to feel like they don't know anything. Right. Even I, to this day, it drives me mad when I realize I don't know something, right? Because clearly I'm a genius and I know everything. But when we talk to people, especially when we're talking about something like guns, in that regard, you're the expert. So there's always going to be a defensiveness from other people who realize he probably knows more about guns than I do, but I have this preconceived notion, but I don't want to make it seem like I don't know anything. Mm-hmm. And so when we start becoming more combative, then guards go up, nothing happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But if you let people kind of arrive at these answers, in a sense, on their own, even though you're guiding the conversation, it changes the ballgame.
Absolutely. I'm going to be heading out to Silicon Valley, actually, after we get over the show here. I got a speech tomorrow, and this is one of the things I'm going to be talking about, is talking about the Second Amendment from a progressive point of view. Yeah. Right? And you know as well as I do, I mean, there are progressives who are gun owners, there are conservatives who are gun owners, but I guess from sort of an anti-gun mindset, let's make the pro-gun case here of, absolutely. Okay, so you don't like guns. Got it. I'm not telling you have to love guns, but let's talk about the policies that you want to implement. Right. And let's talk about why you want to implement these policies. Let's talk about how effective they are. Let's talk about, are there other things that are more effective, absolutely. Right? Yeah. And you got to be able to reach people on their terms, which I think is really important, instead of just trying to get them to think exactly like you do. It's not. That's not it. That's not the point. Yeah. The point is to reach them where they are, yep. Right? Yep. All right, listen, man, we got to take a time out, but I really do appreciate you spending some time with us. It is always good talking with you.
I'm just glad you're in my neck of the woods now.
I am too.
Now, granted, I always look for any excuse to go over to where you are. I actually love it over there.
You got to come to Farmville soon.
I'm good for it. I'm good for it.
All right, we'll make that happen. I'm going to give you a curved brim hat too, by the way. Maybe we do need to do like a hat exchange.
I might explode.
Yeah?
I'm just saying, I might explode.
Well, I would wear like a flat brim cap, but I look like a dork if I do that, so.
And as much as you would look like a dork, I would look like a dork in a curved bill hat.
Different strokes, right?
Hey, but I mean, hey, if it makes the ratings go up, I'm all for it. Let's switch it now and let's do it, right?
Colion, thanks as always,
absolutely,
man.
Cam. Thanks a lot.